I didn't plan to ruin someone's life that night. And I definitely didn't plan to ruin my own. But sometimes one small decision, one moment of anger, can change everything. Before I tell you what happened, I need to ask you something. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you never even imagined they could betray you? Because that's exactly where I was that night. And looking back now, I should have seen the signs. But when you love someone, you don't see red flags. You see excuses. You see hope. You see the version of them you want to believe in. My name is Elena, and until about 3 months ago, I thought my life was simple. Not perfect, but stable. I worked as a financial assistant at a mid-sized consulting firm downtown. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid the bills. Most days I sat behind 2 monitors staring at spreadsheets while trying to ignore the endless office gossip floating around the room. My apartment was small. My car was old. And my savings account, well, let's just say, it wasn't exactly impressive. But I had something that made all of that feel okay. At least I thought I did. His name was Marcus. Marcus and I had been together for almost 4 years. For years. That's long enough to build a life with someone. Long enough to start imagining the future. We talked about marriage sometimes. Nothing official, just those late-night conversations where 2 people lie in bed and casually dream about what their lives might look like someday. Imagine having a little house somewhere quiet, Marcus once said while we were cooking dinner together. I remember laughing. You hate quiet, I told him. That's because I've never lived somewhere peaceful before, he replied. Moments like that made everything feel real.
Permanent.
And that's why what happened later hurt so much. Because betrayal always hurts more when it comes from someone you trusted with your whole heart. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The real story started on a Thursday evening. I had just finished another exhausting day at work. The office had been unusually tense that week because our company was competing for a massive contract that could determine whether several employees kept their jobs or lost them. Everyone was stressed. Everyone was on edge. And by the time I finally left the building, all I wanted was to go home, order cheap takeout, and forget about the world for a few hours. But when I reached my car, I saw something strange. Marcus's car, parked across the street from my office. At first I smiled. It was actually kind of sweet. He sometimes surprised me like that, picking me up after work so we could grab dinner somewhere. But as I walked closer, something didn't feel right. The engine was off. The windows were tinted. For a moment, the entire world around me felt silent, like someone had pressed pause on reality. For years together. And suddenly I was standing in a parking lot watching my boyfriend kiss another woman like I didn't exist. My hands were shaking. My first instinct was to walk over there and confront him, demand an explanation.
But something stopped me.
Because in that moment, I realized something important. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a secret. And secrets mean there's always more you don't know yet. So instead of confronting him, I turned around and I walked back to my car. I drove home without saying a word, without calling him, without texting. I just needed time to think, time to understand what I had just seen. But as I pulled into my apartment parking lot, my phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Hey babe, working late tonight. Don't wait up for dinner. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny. For a moment the entire world around me felt silent. Like someone had pressed pause on reality. Because sometimes the truth is so absurd, it's the only reaction your brain can manage. And that's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him yet. Not until I knew everything. Because if Marcus was lying to me, I wanted to know how deep the lies really went. Looking back now, the truth is that the signs had been there for months. I just didn't want to see them. Marcus had been acting different. Not dramatically different. Just small changes. The kind you can easily explain away if you want to believe everything is fine. He started coming home late. He spent more time on his phone. Sometimes he stepped outside to answer calls. When I asked about it, he always had a reasonable explanation. Work's been crazy lately. My boss keeps calling after hours. You know how demanding this new client is. And I believed him. Because trusting someone is easy when you love them. But after that night in the parking lot, all those little moments started replaying in my head. Every late night, every unexplained message, every time he turned his phone screen away from me. Suddenly, they didn't feel innocent anymore. They felt like clues. The next morning, Marcus acted completely normal, which honestly made everything feel even more disturbing. He walked into the kitchen while I was making coffee and kissed my cheek. "Morning," he said. I forced a smile.
Morning.
He grabbed a mug and leaned against the counter. "You look tired," he said. "I didn't sleep much," I replied. That part wasn't a lie. My brain had spent the entire night replaying that moment in the car over and over again. Marcus glanced at his phone, then back at me. "I might have another late night today," he said casually. Something inside me twisted, but I kept my voice calm. "Work again?" "Yeah." I nodded slowly. "Of course." And for a second, I wondered if he could see through me, if he somehow knew that I had seen everything. But Marcus just finished his coffee and left for work like nothing had happened. Like our relationship wasn't secretly collapsing. That day I couldn't focus on anything. Every spreadsheet looked like meaningless numbers. Every conversation around me sounded distant, because my mind was somewhere else entirely, trying to answer one simple question. Who was that woman? And the strange thing was, I was about to find out much sooner than I expected. Because later that afternoon, something happened at the office that made my stomach drop. Our company had scheduled an important meeting with a potential new client, a major investor, someone whose business could bring millions of dollars into the firm. Everyone was preparing for the meeting like it was the most important presentation of the year. Around 3 o'clock, our manager walked into the office. "Everyone," he said, clapping his hands together. "Our guest just arrived." People immediately started gathering their materials. I grabbed my notebook and followed the group toward the conference room. But the moment the door opened, my heart stopped, because sitting at the table across from our boss was the same woman I had seen in Marcus's car the night before. And when her eyes met mine, she smiled, like she already knew exactly who I was. Do you think that woman already knew Marcus had a girlfriend? Or do you think Marcus had been lying to both of us? Because the next conversation I had with her changed everything. For a moment, I just stood there in the doorway of the conference room. My brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. It was her, the same woman, the one sitting in Marcus's passenger seat the night before, the same one he had kissed. Except now she was sitting confidently at the head of our conference table, flipping through documents like she belonged there. Our manager began introducing her. "Everyone, this is Danielle Carter. She represents Carter Holdings and she'll be overseeing the investment proposal." My stomach twisted. Carter Holdings was the company competing for that massive contract everyone in the office had been stressing about. Which meant this woman wasn't just some random stranger. She was powerful, important, and apparently connected to my workplace. I took a seat near the end of the table, trying my best to look calm. But Danielle's eyes briefly flicked toward me again. And there was something about the way she looked at me, like she recognized me. Or worse, like she knew something I didn't. The meeting started. Danielle spoke confidently about the investment plans, asking questions, making notes. Everyone in the room was focused on impressing her. Everyone except me. Because the entire time, one thought kept circling in my mind. How does she know Marcus? After the meeting ended, people slowly began leaving the room. I tried to slip out quietly with the rest of them, but just as I reached the door, "Excuse me," her voice stopped me. I turned around slowly. Danielle was standing now looking directly at me. "Yes?" I asked carefully. She smiled politely. "You're Elena, right?" My heart skipped. "How do you know my name?" "I saw it on the employee list earlier," she replied smoothly. Something about that answer felt rehearsed. She stepped closer. "You work in the financial department?" "Yes." She nodded thoughtfully. "You seemed very attentive during the meeting." I almost laughed. I hadn't heard a word she said, but I forced a polite smile. "Thank you." There was a brief silence between us. Then she said something that made my chest tighten. "You look familiar." I felt my pulse jump.
Doi.
She tilted her head slightly. I feel like I've seen you somewhere before. For a moment, neither of us spoke. And then she added quietly, maybe I'm mistaken. But something in her expression told me she wasn't mistaken at all. She knew exactly where she had seen me. And suddenly I realized something terrifying. If she recognized me, that meant she might also know who Marcus was. The rest of the day felt like walking through fog. I kept replaying the conversation with Danielle over and over in my head. Did she really recognize me? Or was I just being paranoid? By the time I got home that evening, Marcus was already there, sitting on the couch scrolling through his phone. Hey, he said casually as I walked in. Like nothing had changed. Like he hadn't been kissing another woman less than 24 hours earlier. Hey, I replied quietly. He looked up. You okay? You seem tense. I set my bag down slowly. Just work stress. That part wasn't entirely a lie. He nodded. Yeah, my day was crazy too. I folded my arms. Oh, really? Yeah, he said. Met with an investor earlier. Big opportunity for the company. My heart skipped. An investor. You don't say. I replied carefully. Yeah, he continued. Her name's Danielle. There it was. Hearing him say her name out loud made everything feel even more real. I sat down across from him. How do you know her? I asked. Marcus hesitated. Only for a second. But it was enough for me to notice. She's connected to one of our business partners, he said. That answer felt vague. Too vague. Have you known her long? I asked. Not really, he replied quickly. I stared at him, because now I knew something he didn't realize. He was lying. And suddenly, I couldn't hold it in anymore. So that kiss in your car yesterday, that was just business too? Marcus froze.
Completely.
The color drained from his face. What? He whispered. I saw you, I said quietly. For several seconds, he didn't say anything. Then he ran his hands through his hair. Elena, it's not what it looked like. I almost laughed. That's the oldest line in the book. It was a mistake, he said quickly. A mistake? Yes. So, you accidentally leaned across the car and kissed another woman? He stood up now, clearly panicking. Look, things have been complicated lately. Complicated? I repeated. You've been distant, he said defensively. My jaw dropped. You're blaming me? I'm just saying we haven't been in a good place. For a moment, I just stared at him. 4 years together. And this was the explanation I was getting. Finally, I said quietly, Are you sleeping with her? Marcus didn't answer. And his silence told me everything. If someone you loved tried to justify cheating like this, would you even listen to their explanation? Or would you walk away immediately? Marcus sat back down slowly. Elena, there's something you need to understand. I crossed my arms.
I'm listening.
He took a deep breath. This situation isn't just personal. What does that mean? He hesitated again. Danielle's investment could save my company. I blinked. Marcus, what are you talking about? He leaned forward. If her company pulls out, my firm could collapse. So, I needed to keep her interested. For a moment, I couldn't even process what he was saying. Are you telling me, I said slowly, that you're pretending to have a relationship with her for business? It's not like that, he said quickly. Then what is it like? It's complicated. I stared at him in disbelief. You're cheating on me for a business deal? It's temporary, he insisted.
Temporary.
The word echoed in my head. So, your plan was to keep seeing her while still being with me? I was going to figure it out, he said weakly. Something inside me finally snapped. Get out.
Elena. Get out.
Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but eventually he grabbed his jacket and left. And as the door closed behind him, I realized something. Marcus thought he was the only one being manipulated. But he was wrong, because the next morning,
Danielle called me.
When I answered the phone, Danielle's voice sounded calm. Elena, she said. How did you get my number? I asked immediately. Company records. That made sense. But it still felt unsettling. What do you want? I asked. There was a pause. Then she said something shocking. I know about you and Marcus. My heart skipped. You do? Yes. And you still? I'm not interested in Marcus, she interrupted. That sentence confused me. Then why were you kissing him? Because he thinks I am. For a moment, I was completely silent. I don't understand, I said finally. Danielle sighed. Marcus has been trying very hard to impress me. And I let him believe he was succeeding. My stomach tightened. You were playing him? In a way. Why? Her answer stunned me. Because I wanted to see what kind of man he really was. And now I know. I leaned back slowly. You used him. Yes. And you knew about me the whole time? I suspected. There was a pause. Then she said quietly, you deserve better than someone who would betray you that easily. For the first time since all of this started, I didn't know what to say. Marcus tried calling me for days after that night. I didn't answer. Eventually, he stopped. A week later, I heard through mutual friends that Danielle had canceled the investment deal with his company. Apparently, she didn't trust his leadership. I wasn't surprised. Trust is fragile. Once someone proves they're willing to betray the people closest to them, it's hard to believe anything they say after that. As for me, life slowly returned to normal. Work, home, quiet evenings. But I learned something important through all of this. Sometimes the people who hurt us reveal exactly who they are. And painful as it may be, knowing the truth is better than living inside a lie. So I'm curious. If you had been in my position, would you have forgiven Marcus? Or would you have walked away the way I did? Let me know what you think. Because stories like this always make me wonder one thing. How well do we ever truly know the people we trust the most?